Welcome to Mock Draft Monday. The 2024 NFL Draft is coming up fast, and that means it's time to project what will happen. The Senior Bowl just wrapped up on Saturday, and that means it's time to determine who improved their draft stock and who probably regrets going. I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to 2024 NFL Draft Stock Risers and Fallers, Senior Bowl Edition. Enjoy. Let's start with the falling end of things and begin with South Carolina wide receiver Xavier Legette. I'm not going to spend time talking about how he didn't perform well in practice or how he got hurt and missed out on the big game. No, practice actually went well for Legette, who looked to expand on the idea that he is a 3-level threat. His first day was not too strong, but he recovered for the second day and actually was one of the best receivers out there. So why does he make this list then? Well, we expected bigger, but not in terms of his play. The Senior Bowl measurables listed him at 6'1", 223 pounds, which is 2 inches shorter and 4 pounds lighter than what South Carolina had him listed as. And that's where a lot of his draft stock came in. A lot of teams were looking at his frame, and while he is a good player, his frame just made him that much more appealing. And now that he doesn't have the 6'3" that we were expecting, he really just looks like a bulky, under-average height dude. That will bring concerns for his draft stock. So ignoring the play, ignoring the injury, his measurables are the reason he is number 5 on this Fallers list. Let's stay in Columbia for the number 5 riser on this list. Spencer Rattler absolutely deserves to be here. I won't lie, I wasn't too impressed with Rattler's play, especially in non-7-on-7 drills. His ball placement wasn't anything spectacular. He wasn't great when he was throwing deep, but these are all things that I was expecting given my scouting report. Where he did impress was the 7-on-7 drills. In those drills, he showed pretty good processing en route to a lot of media attention from this week. A lot of eyes were on him for the All-Star game, and he ended up showing out despite playing only one drive. He completed all 4 of his passes for 65 yards and a deep passing touchdown. His touchdown was a beautiful fade pass to the back of the end zone to Georgia wide receiver Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. His play was enough to elevate him to Senior Bowl MVP, which is really impressive given that he only played that one drive. He also outperformed the rest of the quarterback group on the national side, including Michael Pratt and Joe Milton, 2 other quarterbacks who are expected to be drafted. Rattler took several advantages and exploited all of them, and that's why he lands as the number 5 riser on this list. The number 4 faller here can't really control the fact that he's on here. That is Marshall running back Rasheen Ali. Ali already went into the Senior Bowl with an interesting draft stock. Teams weren't sure how to evaluate a guy who had 2 years of production at a school like Marshall. But his elite sophomore season and a very nice redshirt junior season gave scouts the idea that, hey, maybe we should take a shot at this guy in day 3, maybe even early day 3. And he had an impressive start to the Senior Bowl. He looked athletic, he looked shifty, he just looked up to par. But he couldn't continue for long. During the Senior Bowl, he suffered a ruptured biceps tendon that required surgery. Now, this is obviously going to bring concerns. It's a serious injury, but he should be prepared for the start of the 2024 season. This injury is part of the reason why. The other part is the reason why he's a redshirt junior. He medically redshirted his junior year after only playing in 3 games that season due to an undisclosed injury. Teams are going to question that injury and question if he's injury prone. He's probably going to be asked that question in several interviews with other teams, and if it's another rupture or another tendon tear, that's not good. So just like Xavier Legette, Ali actually had an impressive Senior Bowl when he played. It's those external factors that make him fall to number 4 on the Fallers list. Coming back to the risers, I had to choose one of 2 interior offensive linemen that really impressed me this week, and it came down to the man with the higher stock. Oregon center Jackson Powers Johnson is number 4. His stock has been continuously rising over the last 2 months, really after the 2023 college football season started. enough to the point where some people had second round expectations on him going into the Senior Bowl, and he possibly even exceeded them while at the games. He impressed so much in one-on-one drills. His play strength is elite, and he showed that at the games. There are some concerns, like he has 1 year of starting experience, or he's not the best going laterally. All of these concerns are just concerns at this point. We're all locked in on his play strength. I don't want to completely buy into the Senior Bowl hype. I didn't really take these games, the combine, or even pro days too much into account for my player grades. But he seriously looked great. He had a few pancakes this week, and he seemed like he was doing it just like that. One of those pancakes was actually on Duke's Dwayne Carter, someone who's projected to go in about the 3rd round. With his great performance, I've seen some people want this man in the 1st round, comparing him to Tyler Linderbaum. Do people disregard the positional value and take a chance on Powers Johnson in the 1st round of the draft? We will see. But for now, he is the number 4 riser on my Senior Bowl list. Oh, and by the way, the other guy that I was contemplating was UConn's Christian Haynes. Alright, the first 2 fallers on this list came because of external circumstances that they kinda can't really control. These next 3 fallers all are on here because of their play. That starts with North Carolina wide receiver Tez Walker. I was already not too high on him, and the Senior Bowl just makes it worse. Walker came into the Senior Bowl with potential early to mid 2nd round hype, and I'm not sure if that's going to continue after how he performed. Multiple things went wrong for Walker this week, and it starts with the one-on-one drills. He couldn't separate physically, and a lot of his good reps, if you can say, come against cornerbacks who had bad weeks or cornerbacks who just aren't projected to be drafted that high. One guy who he struggled against was Notre Dame's Cam Hart, who I'm not going to put as a winner, but he did have a really good week. But with that being said, Cam Hart is projected to go in day 3 of the draft. Then after the practice came the game, and I don't think I caught him catching a single ball. I'm not sure if he did or not, but on what I saw, he couldn't separate on his targets. He was smothered on a lot of plays. I'm pretty sure he had a drop in the game. It's just not what you want to see. I wish I could confirm this all with stats, but still, this is not the week you want to have if you are a projected 2nd round pick. He has one more chance to show his worth at the combine, but with his separation, I am very concerned. So with that being said, he is faller number 3 on this list. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball and talk about Toledo cornerback Quinyon Mitchell as the number 3 riser. He was 100% the best cornerback at the Senior Bowl this year, and he did so well in the one-on-ones. He came into the Senior Bowl with 1st round hype already, but I think the Senior Bowl might have made him a 1st round lock. It seems like he could do it all. He had some extremely impressive reps, and sure, while he only won about half, he won about half of his reps. For a cornerback, that is insane. He was doing it against all receivers as well, the elusive, athletic ones, but I think he did really well against Brendan Rice, who is 6'3", 205. He stayed locked in on receivers more than any other corner I saw at the Senior Bowl, and that just really helps his 1st round expectations. He didn't play in the game itself, but I don't blame him. He was already voted the top cornerback by his wide receiver teammates. Another guy who looked great was Cam Hart, a guy who almost made this list. But with Mitchell being close to the defensive player of the entire Senior Bowl, I had to give him the priority here. And yeah, sure, he already has those 1st round expectations, but come on. It's almost defensive player of the Senior Bowl. That's impressive. So because of that, he's the number 3 riser on this list. Alright, 2 players left in each section. Let's move over to the fallers and talk about Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton. Man, I feel disappointed in actually somewhat liking this guy. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I'm definitely higher on him than consensus is. And there has to be a quarterback on this fallers list. Some may say Bo Nix. Some may say Sam Hartman had a bad week. And sure, while some of that might be true, I think Milton had the worst week of any quarterback. His practice session was just average, I would say. He did flash some nice traits. He's got quite possibly the best arm strength in this entire class, but it's kinda hard to show that in the practices. But I did like how he could throw on the run. I also liked how he could process. What I didn't like was his ball placement. On several reps, wide receivers had to make awkward adjustments or jump unnecessarily in order to make a grab that was thrown by Milton. But the game was really bad. He did complete 9 passes on 13 attempts for 80 yards, which is fine, but he did have 2 interceptions. His first interception was misreading a defender while throwing on the run, and the second interception almost was returned for a pick 6 because he did not make a great throw at all. Milton showed in both the practices and the games that he has the flashy appeal with his arm strength, but not necessarily the game management appeal. Milton isn't the biggest loser, but he does fall to second on this Senior Bowl fallers list. The number 2 riser is the biggest winner on the offensive side of the ball. That player is Michigan wide receiver Roman Wilson. He was so good at the Senior Bowl. He won a bunch of reps, and that was actually put on the national spotlight. So much for these XFL joke comments on his social medias. He's a legit draft prospect. Going into the Senior Bowl, he was kind of projected to be like a late day 2 or an early day 3 selection. But with this performance at the Senior Bowl practices, he might have solidified himself as a day 2 lock. Some of his routes were phenomenal. He used his great athleticism to create separation off of his shiftiness. He had a couple of reps where he just outran the DB. He had a couple of reps where he could separate physically. He was doing it all at the Senior Bowl. And obviously there's this one viral clip where he made a one-handed grab while being guarded by Quinyon Mitchell. I think what's underappreciated about this rep is that he was able to use Quinyon Mitchell stumbling to his advantage, not only doing it efficiently, but quickly. And his body control too, but enough about that clip. He showed so many traits in the Senior Bowl practices that he deserves to be on this list. He's not number 1, but he's very damn close. Congratulations, Roman. You're number 2 on the Senior Bowl stock risers list. All right, we've made it to the best, and we've made it to the worst. The biggest faller of this week is someone that I mentioned when I made my Senior Bowl prospects to watch video. I made a comment on if he plays well, he's going to raise his stock, and if he doesn't play well, his stock's going to plummet. I'm talking about Penn State cornerback Kalen King, who may not have had the worst week at the cornerback position, but he easily had the most to lose. Coming off of a disappointing junior season, his stock was already falling out of the first round. Going into the Senior Bowl, he was sitting at about a mid-second round projection and cornerback 7 on the consensus big board. When I made my other Senior Bowl video, I said this in exact words. If he can perform well in the Senior Bowl, teams will back it up. If he doesn't perform well, he might have that Keely Ringo type fall. I think that Ringo fall is inevitable now. He couldn't keep up with receivers athletically. He was getting pushed around constantly. He just didn't have that coverage swagger that he had in his sophomore season. I'm not 100% sure what's happening to him. He lost Joey Porter Jr. and suddenly he's just struggling heavily. The Senior Bowl was King's opportunity to prove himself and he couldn't take advantage of it. And for that reason, he is the biggest faller at the Senior Bowl this year. Now, it is time to end this video with the biggest winner at the Senior Bowl. If you've been paying attention to Senior Bowl Twitter, there is one defender that people are talking about that some people didn't even know existed beforehand. That player is Mizzou defensive lineman Darius Robinson, who was voted Practice Player of the Week by NFL scouts and front office executives. I'll tell you exactly what his concerns are. He's kind of undersized. He's kind of getting older and he's a 5th-year senior. He doesn't have the flexibility to keep up. Can we push this all aside and just talk about how elite he played at the Senior Bowl? First off, the flexibility concern was totally set aside. He was able to get under blockers so easily. He also showcased nice athleticism and had a great first step off the line. I think what he showed the most though was his ability to use finesse moves with ease. That man was getting around every blocker. The moves were so good. Explosive, hand placement, arm placement, long stride, boom, he's gone. That cycle continued for almost every rep. I think him winning Practice Player of the Week was so good for his stock as well. I've heard first round talk over the last few days regarding him, and while it may be over exaggerating, he is a legit NFL prospect. As a result, Darius Robinson is the biggest riser of the entire Senior Bowl, and deservingly so. Who stood out to you at the Senior Bowl? Do you agree with my rankings? Let me know in the comment section below.